Tori Roloff, born Victoria Elizabeth Patton on May 3, 1991, in Portland, Oregon. A city where the sky wears the soft gray of autumn and the trees whisper melancholic melodies on rainy nights. Even as a child, Tori was the kind of girl who loved sitting quietly by the window, gazing at the world with clear eyes and a heart full of dreams. She dreamed of becoming a preschool teacher, where tiny hands would sketch the first lines of their lives. Tori was the kind of person who believed in goodness, an almost naive faith in humanity, in love, in the power of healing. She believed every child deserved a mother who loved with her heart, not just her expectations. She once thought love would be the guiding light for every journey, even the darkest paths. Then fate brought Zach Roloff into her life. Zach, a young man with a small frame due to cartilage dysplasia, a genetic disorder causing dwarfism, yet possessed a soul far larger than anyone's height. Tori met him at a farm, where green sprouts first peeked through the summer sun. He wasn't the kind of man she had imagined loving, but from the way he cared for others, his perseverance in work, and the sincerity in his listening gaze, she realized she had fallen for him without even noticing. Their wedding in 2015 was like a fairy tale come to life, simple, warm, and brimming with hope. But no one ever said fairy tales were free of tears. When they joined the reality show Little People, Big World, America witnessed their everyday moments. A small family with children's laughter and simple joys. Yet behind the perfectly edited footage were long nights where Tori buried her face in the kitchen table, unsure how to keep carrying the weight. In 2017, Tori gave birth to their first child, Jackson. For the first time, she saw a part of herself alive in another being. Those early days of motherhood were confusing yet overflowing with love. She documented every movement, every coo, every nap. But then, the exhaustion dragged on. The sleepless nights piled up, and the lack of shared understanding slowly eroded her optimism. When Lila was born in 2019, instead of feeling more complete, she felt herself shattering. There was no alarm bell, just a gradual fading of joy, day by day. She smiled for others, but inside, she was hollow. She woke up in the morning without reason. She cared for her children like a machine, methodical, diligent, but devoid of emotion. Postpartum depression was an invisible monster. It didn't scream or knock you down with force. It whispered in your ear that you weren't good enough, that you were a burden, that your children deserved another mother. Tori began fearing light, fearing her own reflection. She thought she was a failed mother, a failed wife, a worthless human being. She tried to hide the pain. She still took family photos, still posted happy captions on social media, still said, "I'm fine," when Zach asked. But the pretense only plunged her deeper into isolation. Alone in a house full of laughter, she felt lonelier than ever. Zach, the devoted husband, couldn't understand at first. He saw nothing wrong. But when her eyes grew dull, when hugs became reluctant, when the stories that once bonded them turned to silence, he panicked. He loved her, but he didn't know how to save her from herself. Tori didn't need saving. She needed understanding. And it was heartbreaking that even Zach couldn't give her that. Their mutual helplessness led to fights. No one was wrong, yet everyone hurt. They began avoiding each other, not out of hatred, but because closeness now only reminded them of what couldn't be repaired. When they decided to divorce, it wasn't a decision made in anger. It was the quiet letting go of two people who had loved deeply but couldn't heal together. Tori didn't cry or scream. She just sat watching autumn leaves fall outside the window, while inside, everything turned to ashes. But from those ashes, rebirth began. After the divorce, Tori started writing. Her first journal entries were messy, tear-stained, filled with why. But then she realized she didn't need to understand everything. She just needed to accept that she had been hurt and she deserved healing. She sought therapy, where she learned to name her emotions, to stop self-blaming, to forgive herself. She began sharing her journey on social media. No longer polished photos, but raw, honest words. Strangers messaged her in gratitude. They said because of Tori, they dared to speak their truth, to admit they weren't okay. Tori became an inspiration, Not because she was perfect, but because she dared to be real. She started online classes for new mothers, not just teaching childcare, but teaching self-love. She held small gatherings where women could cry, laugh, or sit in silence, and still be understood. With her children, she stopped trying to be the perfect mother. She hugged them when sad, apologized when she snapped, and taught them that she, too, was human, with both radiant and broken days. Jackson and Lila grew up in genuine, unpretentious love. The love of a mother who had shattered but learned to piece herself back together. Today, Tori Roloff is proof that cracks don't ruin a person. They make you deeper, wiser. She's no longer a TV character, no longer a symbol of a perfect family. She's a woman living, truly living, with tears, smiles, and every breath of effort. She isn't just a survivor. She's someone who crawled out of the abyss and brought back light for the lost. Though scarred, Tori never lost the gentleness in her soul. After her darkest months, when the light in her heart nearly faded, she relearned how to walk. Slowly, fragilely, but resiliently. She no longer ran from sadness. She learned to sit with it, listen to it, and in doing so, understand herself like never before. Once, she wondered if motherhood was sacred instinct or just society's imposition on women. But she realized, a mother's love isn't about perfection. It's about presence. In bedtime stories, in tearful embraces, in simply being there. She wasn't perfect, but she showed up. And for a child, sometimes that's all they need. Tori rediscovered her identity. Once drowned in roles as mother, wife, public figure, she returned to art, painting, writing short stories, photography. Her frames no longer held forced family smiles, but quiet moments. A teacup on a rainy afternoon, sunlight drifting into an empty kitchen, Lila's tiny grin after falling and rising again. She also faced loneliness instead of denying it. She once feared solitude. Empty rooms, silent dinners, walks without Zach's hand to hold. But in time, she realized, loneliness isn't an enemy, but a companion. One that forces introspection, teaches appreciation for silence, and fills the void within. She didn't avoid the past. On her blog, Tori wrote openly about moments she thought she'd never recover from. Standing on a second-floor railing with dark thoughts, lying motionless for 3 days without eating, crying because she couldn't tie her daughter's hair without trembling. She wrote not for attention, but to prove that pain isn't weakness. It's proof of life. At a mental health seminar for young mothers, Tori once said something that silenced the room. Some mornings, I wake up and the first thing I do is apologize to myself for surviving another day with a weary mind. But then I learned to replace that apology with a hug. And that's how I began to forgive. She also became a bridge for fathers and husbands. Men like Zach, who felt helpless supporting their struggling partners. She helped them see that sometimes, love isn't grand gestures, but sitting together in silence, listening without judgment, holding hands without solutions. With Zach, though their marriage ended, friendship and respect remained. They learned to co-parent, not as spouses, but as two people who had loved deeply and shared responsibility. Some evenings, they sat together at Jackson's soccer games, laughed at Lila's school plays. Unspoken between them was another kind of love, mature and full of empathy. Post-divorce, Tori dated again, a few fragile hopes. But she realized, what she needed wasn't someone to fill the void, but herself, stronger, gentler, truer. She stopped seeking love as a lifeline. She built it from within. Once she thought she had nothing left to give, but her deepest wounds became her greatest gift to the world. In a viral video, she sat at the kitchen table, where she once cried alone and said, "If you're exhausted, remember you're not alone. If you feel invisible, I see you. And if you think you're not enough, know that you, just as you are, already are." On her 34th birthday, Tori didn't throw a party. She took her kids to the park, ate ice cream, and flew kites. When Jackson asked, "Mom, what do you wish for?" she smiled, watching the kite soar, and said, "I wish to always dare to be honest. With you, and with myself." Tori Roloff's life is no longer an edited TV show. It's real days, real moments, small but meaningful. A thank you message from a stranger, Lila's crayon drawings, a quiet afternoon after rain. She doesn't seek fame. She seeks truth. And when she finds it, she shares it, like light reaching into others' dark corners. Now, when asked who she is, Tori no longer answers with labels like Zach's ex-wife or reality TV star. She simply smiles and says, "I'm someone learning to be kind to myself, one day at a time."